Hey, this is Bob from Skillz Drum Lessons, and we're gonna do another short video for the Practice Drumming Anywhere series. Now, we're gonna do part 4 of the John Bonham Triplet. So the right, left foot, right, left foot. And instead of just doing it like, and counting and feeling it in triplets, now we're gonna use this as a 16th note fill for starters. Because you can make it groove also. We'll get into that more behind the kit later on, someday, or just become a member and get it right away. Hey, up to you. But today we're gonna do the right, left, bass, and start playing that in other subdivisions. Because that is the main goal here, to talk about subdivisions today. The subdivisions you have to see as you have a quarter note, and the number of beats the quarter note is subdivided into is subdivision, you know? And you might also have a half note or some other note rate which can be subdivided into something. Yeah, that might be true, but let's keep it simple. This is just about a quarter note getting subdivided into notes. So if we're talking about eighth notes, for instance, you have 8 notes in a 4/4 bar, which means 2 notes per quarter note. So that means a subdivision of 2, you know, so 8 notes is subdivision 2. If you have 8 note triplets, then you have 12 notes in a 4/4 bar, 3 notes per quarter note, so subdivision 3. If you have 16th notes, subdivision 4. If you have quintuplets, subdivision 5. If you have 16th note triplets, subdivision 6. And so on and so on. So we're going to be using different subdivisions now. Now, important to realize that if you have a grouping of 3, then the most relaxed way of bringing this without creating any rhythmical tension is to have a parallel feel. So this is a grouping of 3, so we use a subdivision of 3 or 6, as in 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, that feel. 16th note triplets is then basically the same as 8th note triplets, but you divide an 8th note into 3 instead of a quarter note into 3. You know, that's the common thread here. So it has the same feel. Yeah, that's enough for now. So that has the symmetrical feel. Yeah, so you want to create a symmetrical feel by keeping the subdivision aligned with the grouping. That's the idea. That takes care of a relaxed feel. So you're like 1 ma 2 ma 3 1 ma 2 ma 3 ma 4 ma 1 ma 2 ma 3 ma 4 ma 1 ma 2 ma 3 ma. That's all very relaxed, and it feels like it's supposed to be like that. So little rhythmic tension. If, however, we want more rhythmic tension, then an excellent tool would be to make this asymmetrical in whatever way we feel fit. Now, usually we feel music as in music has a time signature, a tempo, and a subdivision, you know, like boom. So then the subdivision is laid out. 1 2 3 4 so you can feel that either as a half note feel, half time feel with 3 notes per quarter note, like 1 ma 2 ma 3 ma 4 ma 1 ma 2 ma 3 ma 4 ma. Or you can also make that 16 note triplets by feeling like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's important to see that these are in fact the same. The only difference is the way of notating it. You would choose a quarter note to be divided into 3, or a quarter note to be divided in 2 groups of 3, making a sextuplet. But in feel, it's essentially the same. Doesn't matter. So if you do that, well, the music indicates a certain feel. It has a vibe. So we can, most of the time, we can't alter too much. You know, we might sneak in a couple of 16th notes here and there, or even a quintuplet if we want to. Certainly in fast, a fast quintuplet may not feel out of place at all, but we can't make it too weird by really going straight 8th notes in a 16th note in a 8th note triplet feel. That might feel a little weird. We're really forcing everyone to go a different feel there. That might be too much for a lot of music. But what we can do is stick with the same subdivision and go in and out of, well, add rhythmic tension by not only playing symmetrical groupings and stickings, but also asymmetric things. Like if you have this triplet, we can not only play triplets on top of that, we can also decide to play groups of 2, or we can play groups of 4 or 5 or 7 or whatever. And the same goes the other way around. If we have 16th notes, then we can choose to play 3-note groupings on top. Now that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be using the Bonham triplet, but play that in a 16-note feel. Now, that maybe, if you're not used to this, it will feel really weird. You know, from the other video where there are 2 voices, like one is constantly like, yeah, when you do feel just good and not do too weird things, I don't like it. And this one is constantly like, hey, let's gonna do really weird and new things, excitement. And those 2 are really constantly going at it inside our head, like, what are we gonna do? Most of the time, if we need new things, you need this one. You know, this one is gonna overrule everything. That's why it's important to count. And if you want more information on that, then just go watch the other videos in the series, and I explain this. This may feel weird in the beginning, no problem. You just need to count it out, and if you do that, then this will be, well, it will do exactly what you need it to do. It'll add rhythmic tension. So what we need to do first is to get this triangle shape, the Bonham triplet, and no longer feel it as a triplet, but as a 3-note grouping in 16th notes. So what we need to do is we have to count 16 notes and play this 3-note grouping on top. Now, the way you want to do that is to see that as a simple this times that. It resolves after 12 notes. You know, 4 times 3 is 12. Would you do it in a 4/4 16-note feel? That's not going to resolve, so you need another 3 times 16, 48 notes, in order for the 3s to be able to resolve. So it's much easier to actually count this in 3/4 and 16th notes. That way it resolves after just 1 bar. So we go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And on top we learn to play this thing. So the way to approach these things is to make sure that the counting is done with the voice and what you hear back. So that's the part of the senses which is really responsible for getting the counting in shape. And we use our eyes, mainly our eyes. That's why it's so beautiful to practice this not behind a set of drums, but rather anywhere else but behind a set of drums. So what we want to do is we want to use our eyes to make sure it is still the triangle shape, because a triangle is confirmation that we are still using the 3-note grouping. One thing we have to really beware of is to not play any rests. So you don't want to go like 1 E and 2E and 3E and kind of defies the purpose. You want to go constantly, and you have to be aware of, okay, so if I have a subdivision 4 and I throw in a 3-note grouping, then the first one will start on the first one, 1E and, but the next one will start on the A, 1E and A. That is where the second one will start. So you go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. That is where the next one is going to start. In other words, if you see these four notes, the subdivision 4, 1, E, and A, you're going to start on the first note of the 4, then you're going to start on the 4th note, 3rd note, 2nd note, then you're back to 1. That's the idea. Yeah, so 1, E, and A, 2, E, and 1, E, and A, 2, E, and A. I'm not used to this thing, this way of counting. It would be much more easy for me to go to 1, to, not, you know, that's the Dutch way of counting. 1, 2, 2, not 3, 1, 2, not 3, 1. That's the way this one moves as well. So once you get that counting down a little, and you have deciphered the problem, so to speak, the challenge, then you can also get this one in. It's basically the same. Just have to really beware of the motion, you know, the triangle shape, counterclockwise in this case. So you go like 1, E, and A, 2, E, and E, E, A, 1, E, and A, 2, E, and A, 3, E, and A, 1, 2, E, and 3, and 4, 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. This is the next challenge. The next challenge is going to be to only count quarter notes, or to count it out loud, and the rest a little more under the radar. So you go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's the basic idea. So the next time you're in some kind of a funk groove, you go like, and you want to have some rhythmic tension, you know, you're not just like, nothing wrong with that, but there's not much rhythmic tension going on. Now suppose you want to fill with a lot more rhythmic tension, then think of this one. And if you really own this one, then you can start it anywhere you'd like. You know, you can start on the end of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2. Or you can start the last. You can start anywhere. Doesn't matter. If you have trouble finding these starting points, then just bring the tempo down drastically, I would say at first. Count out loud, be very precise with what you want to practice, and make sure you really get that, you really own that. So don't go all over the place like I do this once and I do that one. Just pick a few things, or rather pick one thing you really want to practice, and get that going really, really well. Now, sometimes you pick something which is really, really hard for you. And we've all been there. You know, it doesn't matter if it's coordination or counting or whatever it is. There are certain things we have an astonishing large amount of trouble with in the beginning. Because if you constantly repeat this and you practice this in small increments, you'll get it. You know, there's no reason to think that you're not gonna get it. And all of the guys, I'm looking at the picture now of Peter Erskine and Dave DiCenzo and Marco Miniman. Baby Dawes, Buddy Rich, Steve Jordan. I'm looking at all these greats, and yeah, sure, they've mastered it, but you haven't seen them practicing, you know? You only see the result. People only show what they want you to see. So you don't get a glimpse into the actual practicing sessions that they've done when they were practicing. And they started, most of them anyway, started out young. So they were kids, and then they were all over the place, just like we all were. But if you practice enough, and especially if you do that in small increments daily, you know, that's important again. So the daily drum diet in the 3D drumming system, that's important to get, you know. And if you do that, and you use a system called chunking, where you really have small goals you wanna complete, you wanna reach. If you do that and you build up the confidence that you can do this, you know, you get more, you certainly get the endorphin rush, and you get the necessary stimuli inside the brain, the chemicals working. And if you get this, then there's no reason to think that you're not going to get to your desired goal. You will get there, no problem. There's no question if you do the right things. That's again why it's so important to do the structure, all the drum practice in a really structured way. So if you want to know more about that, go get the 3D drumming system. And if you just enjoyed the series and you like to know more, subscribe to the channel so you get notified. Give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and I'll be back here tomorrow with another one. So keep practicing. See you next one.